Hey, good morning, Brooklyn. How are you?
Good.
Good. Yesterday we read a book about, remember what we
Snakes.
read about?
Snakes.
And what was that word that we used to describe the snakes?
Slithery.
Slithery snakes, that's right. And yesterday we talked about things that we wanted to know, things that we wondered, and things that we learned. Can you tell me on your chart what was one thing that you already knew about snakes before we started reading?
They are slimy.
They were slimy. And you used some very good descriptive words about how they moved. Can you remember those words that you told me about how they moved?
Slithery.
You thought they slithered, right?
Yep.
And then I remember we talked about if we took an ending off of a word, what happens to that word?
Slither.
It does become sliver. And what does that mean? Does that change the word at all, or?
Yes, it does because they had a Y in it last time.
They did have a Y in
And that
it.
makes the E sound.
That's right. And so what happens to something that's singular? We talked about singular and plural yesterday. Do you remember what singular is?
It means one.
One. What does plural mean?
Two or more.
Two or more. That's right. So if Mrs. Ingle said this is a
Pen.
what would it be if I had more than one?
Pens.
Pens. And then again, we talked about those endings. If we change the ending, what does it do to the text?
It's gonna change the word.
It is. It's going to change the word and the meaning of the word, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also talked about yesterday in the book, authors sometimes use these things to help us. And Mrs. Eagle used that word context clues. In this book, what were some of the context clues that the author used to help us out with the text?
Introduction.
They did use an introduction to tell us about it. What was the ending thing? What was that word called?
Glossary.
Well, yeah, there was the glossary at the end. But when we talked about the big conclusion, very good. Nice job. Good job. High five. All right. So what were some of the things inside of the text that the author used to help us with? Photographs.
And
or
where the snakes live, some snakes.
Right, because there was text information at the end of those pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good job. And do you remember some of those vocabulary words that we learned yesterday?
Fangs.
Fangs. So fangs means more than one or just one?
More than one.
More than one. And what was another one of those vocabulary words we learned yesterday?
Trats? No, not really. Reptiles?
Reptiles, that's right, because we're mammals and snakes are reptiles because they're what?
Cold-blooded.
They are.
We're warm-blooded.
Yes, that's exactly right. And what was another one? Do you remember?
Prey.
Prey. And what was a prey?
What they eat.
And what about that thing?
Venom.
Venom. What is that stuff?
Poisonous stuff.
It is poisonous, and it was a liquid, right? And do you remember what was inside, what they kept that liquid in? What did they call it?
Fluid?
The venom was the fluid, but what did the fluid store inside of the snake? I think in the text it was called sac. Sac, yeah. It was kind of like this little pouch in there that we used to it. And we had gone through the text and we had actually highlighted some of these words that were really hard. Do you remember what this word was?
Unusual.
Unusual, that's right. That was a very difficult one.
I didn't get any wrong on that page.
You didn't. And it wasn't that you got them wrong. You just had some difficulty decoding them, right? What was this one? You remember that one?
Cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Did I have troubles on that one?
Yeah. Oh. Remember, we highlighted the cold-blooded because it was a snake. What? Trait. Yes, it was a snake's trait, and that was one of the things that you put on your KWL chart. You said I wanted to learn about snake traits. Traits. Yes. And if we go on here, Mrs. Dingle had highlighted these ones here. What was that one? Surface. Nice job. And what about this one?
Beneath.
Beneath. Yes. Nice job. Good. And that was great. So are we ready to finish up the rest of the book?
Yeah.
I am super excited to listen to you read the rest of that book for me. And I absolutely love that picture of the snake that you did on top of your head. I thought you did a fabulous job with that. Good job.
Snakes have clear scales instead